I'm going to continue on with the sort of deconstructing Yang style Taiji lessons here. And again, we're starting, this is going just old basics, stripping it back down and building it back up. So some of the stuff, kind of reiterating here, some of the things I've talked about before are going to be repeated now in this, especially these early stages. Not because I'm particularly running out of content, but I'm just trying to make everything in a one-stop sort of place. So the other things, if people are looking for, hey, there's relaxation stuff to do in different classrooms, coping skills, sort of thing, basics, there's that. This is just sort of, we can have the playlist run straight through. So, as such, one of the very first thing I do in classes, even if it's like at the gyms I've taught at or teaching at, and there's new people in, first and foremost is breathing. And I've had it where I've had a lot of people come in with, oh, we did Tai Chi before. I was with so and so over here, so and so over there, or at this gym, or yeah. And so many times, so many people get that sort of either sort of hippie air dancing or just it was like, oh, it's just something just old people do, and even that isn't even taught correctly, or it's some gym bunny with some sort of, weekend or 6 weeks little boot camp course about Tai Chi, and it's garbage. It's not in any way accurate. Or you have people, even I've seen people come in through with me that have been to other places, that places with actual schools and things, and they still don't learn anything about breathing. They still don't learn anything about the posture the way it's supposed to be. I've just had people this week even say, hey, we've had it where, people don't even, we ask them about specifics about the stuff that we're doing, and they can't even break it down. This is no good. It's not the way I was taught. This is not the way my teachers were taught. This is not the way I think. This is not the way to teach or to present anything going down at all. I mean, even if you're going in and looking at, like, trying to do that wet on wet painting technique from Bob Ross, how many times does he say the same things again and again? That's just basic sort of stuff with it, going over the basics of everything again and again. It needs to happen. So, and for internals, the breathing has to be a certain way and a certain focus, and the body posture has to be set up a certain way. And the movement and the body posture is pretty universal in Taiji Chuan, Xingyi Chuan, Baguazhang, and in most of Qigong. There are a few places where things will be a little bit different, and those we can mark out as we go and everything, but overall, it's going to be the same thing. But we're going to start with breathing. We do that more than drinking water and eating, and both of those things we need to do every day. Okay, fasting, certain things or anything, but ideally we're doing those things every day. We breathe even more, breathe out involuntarily. However, we can breathe voluntarily. And, one of the sort of definitions you can have for qi is breath. So it's intimately and intrinsically linked with everything else we're going to do. How many times have someone's been upset and you're like, oh, calm down, calm down. When has that ever really helped? Honestly, when has it really helped? Calm down? Screw you. Who the hell are you to tell me to calm down? As someone who's worked in sort of therapeutic crisis intervention sort of instances with mental health, let alone even just with people in real life or anything, just telling people to calm down doesn't work. What does help is helping people focus back on their breathing, even breathing with them, or giving them a count or something along those lines. Breathing as a coping skill is always something you're going to have. What are your coping skills? Oh, listen to music, play video games, play basketball. No, those aren't always going to be available to you. Breathing is always available to you. You are always available to you for these things. Even people who, again, who are within the last couple months training with me, they're like, hey, we was doing this breathing, and we were getting, our blood pressures are lower when we're getting our blood pressure taken, or all these other things with that. So mentally, emotionally, as well as energetically, as well as even in a fitness level, as well as even now thinking about it in terms of a Marshall principle. Breathing, a number one fundamental thing that we're going to do. So, one of the things we're looking at here is look at we're standing and with this. The breathing we're going to teach now is considered postnatal and is really helpful when we're standing or moving. We're in a vertical position. The polarity between the top of my head and the bottom of my feet, or even where the ground is the greatest it's going to be if I'm standing in terms of relational to me. Whether I'm in an airplane or not is irrelevant. Because in relation to me, using my own body as a structure for this, top of the head, bottom of the feet, or the ground, furthest apart. What we can do with that is we're really moving the energy through the body. We're getting it to be enhanced, really charging it up, getting it to kind of almost like particle accelerator through. Now, even if we are going to take out energy and people want to get real materialist reduction about it, being able to stand correctly and breathe correctly in a whole body united state and united way is going to help everything. Your cardiovascular health, being able to, again, keep some of the anxiety and tension out of the heart and lungs, away from the brain, be able to help with psychological things. I myself have anxiety, panic disorder, depression. I have migraines. I know people who with epilepsy who have been able to use these techniques to be able to control that without having to get medicated and all this other stuff. I've had tons and tons of kids be like, "Hey, this stuff helped me not get, arrested or shot or in a restraint or in further trouble at home or something else like that." Myself included, if I hadn't started this training 22 years ago now, I might be in debtor prison right now. I have no idea. My life would not be, you know, in the way that it is now. I'm not saying I'm super living it up or anything else like that, but I have a wherewithal and a certain amount of mental and emotional health that I would not have had otherwise. So when I'm saying this stuff works, it's not just because I read it out of some book or got some little weekend warrior sort of pass or am just some hippy dippy sort of weird stuff that I got from some white dude with dreadlocks or something like that. And I'm saying this because it's absolutely helped save my life and sanity. So with postnatal breathing, what we're talking about is driving the lower abdomen straight to the spine. If I can kind of exaggerate this, breathe in, pulling back. The Mingmen is on the opposite part of where the Dantian would be. So to take a step back, the Chinese usually use what's called three Dantians, these energy centers. You might be used to hearing about chakras. It's essentially very much the same thing. In fact, they correspond to the even number chakras. So we have the lower abdomen, which is the second chakra, or sacral chakra, which is 2 inches below the navel. We have the heart one, and then the third eye one. Now the other one, the chakra system will have the perineum or perineum, the stomach, solar plexus, throat, and crown of the head too. Adding to those three, the Chinese most of the time we're gonna talk about with qigong and the internals are gonna be the three dantians, upper, middle, lower, and most of that time we're gonna focus on the lower. So if I just say dantian, I mean the lower dantian. So my navel's here, about 2 inches down, and starting an inch into the body, right about where an actual sort of belt line should be, if we know how to dress ourselves in a decent adult fashion. It's going to be here, and we're going to breathe in, and opposite that on the spine, the lower spine, so we're probably around, was that L5 and S1 sort of thing, right about where I have some issues, oddly enough, is the Mingmen. So we're going to drive just the lower abdomen. That's it. Just the lower abdomen, straight back to the spine, and the inhale And in the exhale, push forward. I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit. We're going to inhale, pull in. Exhale, push forward. A couple more together. So lower abdomen only. Breathe in, pull in to the spine. Exhale, push forward. Let's do one more together here. Breathe in, pull in. Exhale, and push forward. So what essentially we want is we want the lower abdomen to be pulling in and out and moving in a parallel direction to the ground. Now, if you're used to singing or acting training where you project in and you're pulling in with the belly, it's even lower still. You can still use proper projection and that acting and singing training even with this too. Trust me, I've done it. So I also have that acting training, so I've been able, you can still do it. What we don't want to do is breathe in with the chest. Why is that? Well, we have something underneath here called the diaphragm that pulls down. It pulls down and the lungs are able to inflate and get the full breath that they're supposed to. How do we know that this is the breath we're supposed to get? Well, because we have big walls on either side of our lungs, our rib cage and our sternum here. So if our lungs were meant to expand this way, why do we have big hard cages here meant to keep them protected and from expanding this way? It's supposed to expand this way. So when we breathe here, it's helping the lungs expand down this way. A couple other things. One is in a meditative quality. This is the focus that we have to the sort of stay and return meditation. So Chan Buddhism, which is the one you mostly find in Shaolin, and became Zen. And I'm specifically sort of pointing out Chan and Zen because that's where some of my training has been. I can't really speak as much to the Tibetan or other modalities of it because my training's been mostly Chan and Zen. With that, there's the stay and return meditation. So it's pretty much you're focused in on that lower dantian. You're inverting the breathing to the prenatal breathing, but your focus is down on there. And if your mind starts to wander, you just bring it back. Now, this is where the sort of non-judgmental-y part happens and the non-attachment, because if those thoughts or those feelings do come up, the attachments aren't necessarily that you're having thoughts and feelings because you're a human being. You're going to have thoughts and feelings. To get rid of thoughts and feelings is either dead or some sort of, not super probably socially amenable psychological disorder. So you're going to have that. It's how you attach to those things. If now all of a sudden you get a song in your head, something that happens to me sometimes when I'm meditating and stuff, and you keep following that song or you keep following an imaginary conversation you're having with somebody in your head. Maybe you got mad at someone at work or someone was being a butthead in line at the store or something. And I can't tell if that's a scar or a bite. Anyway, any of those other things, you can keep following that along. Then what happens is you keep thinking that, oh, I should have said this, I should have that. Then you're attaching to it. If you have that thought come up, it was like, man, that guy was kind of a bag in the store. Oh, they're not attached to it. You've let it go. This breathing helps you do that because it gives you something to focus on. Because if you're just actual meditating, correct meditation isn't just thinking of nothing, no thing. If we mean no thing, we mean no thing as in no differentiation between things. Wu Wei isn't just void. It's kind of that whole everything. Even the whole everything that was before the first thing that starts coming out. So there's, you still have a fullness to it. It's not just void. Empty does not mean void. So it will help be able to give the mind something to focus on and reestablish focus on if things start kind of. I think the Buddhas will call it like the chattering monkey mind. So it gives you something to redo with. With this postnatal breathing, and as we're standing or moving, this breathing also helps facilitate that movement of energy, that qi gong, energy work sort of breath and movement. When we have that higher polarity, that movement of it is easier, and we can get it to move and we can get it to pump and get it to kind of grow. When we're doing our sitting, then one of the things that we're really doing is, since the polarity is in that middle stage between as big as it is and nothing, we're fine tuning all the energy stuff and the meridians and everything. So this is where almost that sort of alchemical cauldron is. I mean, we're bringing everything up and doing everything as we're doing our standing or our moving or anything, and the sitting can really help get a lot of that fine-tune work of that going on. And that's one of the reasons for the prenatal breathing for that, because you can keep everything lower without then. Sometimes the postnatal breathing, this Tai Chi breathing, causes stress if you're sitting and doing it. Um, and laying down is just sort of being able to relax in mindfulness. Another thing that this breathing does is it helps automatically root you. I have a whole other thing about the importance of rooting anyway, especially when we're talking about qigong work and any energy work at all, let alone actual, qigong, actual exercises sort of stuff. But it will help you root your energy back in that lower center of gravity sort of self, and will help you, when the posture is correct, be able to root your energy down through the legs and into the ground. Again, rooting super important. We'll talk about that later, but right now that's another thing that will help do. This lower dantian, this second chakra, that sacral chakra, Anju, I can't remember the Sanskrit names for them, is also, from what I understand, from what I've read, and from what I've heard, is the only one of the dantians or chakras that also stores energy. You're going to have energy moving through, and they'll have the different emotional components and all this other stuff too. This is the only one that stores energy. And again, for those of you who might be mostly um, materialist reductionists, neurons have been found around the heart. Neurons have been found around the stomach. And from what I understand from a very dear doctor friend of mine, there are also neurons in this lower abdomen, sort of pelvic pubic area as well. Almost like people who have spent decades, hours and hours a day for decades, feeling the interior of their body, might have been able to gain sensitivity to certain things that, just because we didn't have a powerful enough microscope, 5, 10 years ago, and we just poop, oh, this doesn't exist. Well, maybe it does. And I think there's a lot of things that exist that we just have different names for. And people are very, very protective in almost violent sense about their names, about these things. And science has to be here, and anything other than that which is wrong is over here. Well, guys might be saying the same thing, just using different language. Our modern American medical science might be like, oh, these are neural clusters. Okay, fine. 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago or so, 3 to 5, and even beyond, even before that, probably, most likely, when the people were discovering these things and feeling these things, they didn't have the name for neural clusters. They had the name for what it felt like. Like chakras, I think, means wheel. It felt like a wheel. You can feel it moving and turning. So that's what they called it, because that was the language that we have. And now everyone wants to be protective of their little thing. Don't worry about it. So anything you want to use for this, it can be useful for it. So lower abdomen only. There's something I'm kind of, so if be careful of this, and it's going to take time, and we'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things, I call it J-ing. So if you write it, my first name begins with a J, I have to make sure that, oh, there, good, I see, thank you, Jane Eyre. J, yes, this way. it kind of goes in and up. So you might see breathe in, starts okay, and then comes up. Well, be mindful of that. And there will be things when we talk about posture that will help with this too. I want to really break stuff down. So this is just going to be breath. The posture and the breath stuff are going to really work together a lot, but we're going to break it up a little bit. Um, but for right now, the thing we're going to add on top of this is take the tip of your tongue and put it right behind the teeth, or front teeth, right where the gums meet the teeth. Huh. So I was there. La, like you're about to la 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 la, like you're just about to do that. Now, what that does, a couple things. One, it helps kind of keep the mouth, some of the salivation going on in there, so the mouth doesn't super dry out as we're playing for a long time and breathing through the nose. On top of that, again, if you just want to think about a bioenergy, that's fine. If we think about it in terms of chi, we've got the main meridians through the body. So we have the Ren and the Du channel. We have the wait, or is it Ren and Du? I think it's Ren and Du channels. So we have the governing vessel that comes up the center of the back from the perineum up the tailbone, right up the spine, comes up around to here, and we have the conception vessel that completes that circuit all the way down and back up. That main connection of those two meridians, the Ren and Du channels, if you do other meditating later on, this will be what you use for the microcosmic orbit. Again, we're not going to do that yet because we need to learn how to root first. If people do that and don't do it right, stuff starts burning out. No good, because they're not rooting. They just, oh, they want the results. Well, you got to do it right first. You can't build a house from the roof up or the roof down. You have to lay the foundation first. Foundation no good, house no good. But what that does is that helps to really connect those two channels like you're really connecting in an electrical circuit. And it helps make those channels move in a much more free, open, and easier sort of way. And also remember, in traditional Chinese medicine, in a lot of places in the sort of region of the world, what causes sickness and dis-ease is blockages. This will help eliminate or push through some of the blockages in that main superhighway of meridians through the body. So, with the tongue behind the teeth at the roof of the mouth, and again, we're going to add posture stuff to this as well. We're going to focus on this lower dantian, 2 inches below the navel. So we find the navel or belly button, if you will, 2 inches below that, and isolate that lower abdomen, not upper abdomen, not chest, just the lower abdomen. If it helps to put one hand directly on that Mingmen or right on the spine back, so you're thinking about pulling one hand to the other on the inhale, and on the exhale pushing it forward, fine. That's good for right now. But what we want is smooth, even breaths as well. So it might help in terms of, this is, beginning meditation as well. Count your breaths. So you can count, 1, 2, 3 for my inhale, and then like 1, 2, 3 for the exhale. And make them as even as you can. And we breathe in and pull in. Exhale and push forward. And we breathe in. And breathe out. And you might find that you have a longer inhale than exhale, or vice versa. I feel like I can breathe in longer than I breathe out. Like my exhale just seems to kind of dump out on a much larger sort of way than my inhale. I don't know if it's because of my sinuses, which have never ever in my entire life been good, or the myriad things I've had go on with like my lungs, or the potential for things around my heart and stuff like that. My medical history, basically. I don't know if it's that or just some way I learned or something like that. But that's part of the meditative aspect of it, the part of actual mindfulness. Again, not just the sort of stuff we're sold now. Actual mindfulness, being able to know that, understand that, and adjust for it. Don't worry right now about any sort of pauses. There are some breathing methods where you breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold, breathe in, hold. Don't worry about that right now. Right now, just make the inhale and the exhale the same amount of time, nice and smooth, nice and even, nice and careful. Side note on now we're going to talk a little bit about conditioning. If you've never done this before, even if you've got yoga background out the wazoo or other qigong or tai chi or singer or something like that, and this is giving you a little bit of trouble right now, that's fine. It's almost kind of supposed to, because this is a method of breathing that is diametrically opposed to the way that those of us who have grown up in 20th, 21st century Western culture, at least America. I'm going to take a wild kind of stab in the dark and say probably Europe as well, and places within the sort of colonial spotlight throughout the world. We either haven't been taught at all to breathe, or we've been taught to breathe up here. Even if we look at our cartoons, when our cartoon characters are out of breath, they're breathing up here. So this is diametrically opposed to what we're taught. So what does conditioning tell us? Conditioning tells us that we have to unprogram the thing we've learned before, reprogram the new thing, and then practice the new thing for long enough where now that becomes the conditioned behavior. This isn't something that you're going to be able to completely snap and do at a turn. So intermittent conditioning is now in effect, which takes longer for extinction to happen. And you know what? That's fine. With consistent practice, with people doing the best they can at the time they have, this breathing will eventually take over on its own. Believe me, this was giving me tons of problems when I started. Now, if I breathe in any way other than this, or the prenatal, if I'm doing like my sitting or lying down meditations, if I breathe any other way other than my lower abdomen, it feels weird and I know it. But it takes a while for that to go. It takes sometimes, maybe you're like just stood there in line getting a sandwich, or some ice cream or something like that. And you're like, oh, you know what? There's like 3, 4 people in here. I'm just going to kind of put my hand here, and no one's kind of looking. If that's something that bothers you, and you can just kind of again, a little easier standing or walking than it is sitting down for this breathing. But then again, if someone, you could be a customer service and you have someone screaming at you for something that's not your fault or not your problem. You know what? You can still listen and still be present in what's going on, but having a focus here on that Dantian kind of helps take some of that other sort of background speak in your brain, the sort of stuff you want to say, or you're really thinking about, oh, stop talking so I can say this. This helps kind of keep some of that mind down and away, so that way you can get through those stressful interactions in a much healthier place without reacting in a way that sort of gives up your power. This is a way for you to help keep your power in stressful situations. Not only can it relax you, but again, it gives you something a little bit to kind of focus on. So some of that other talk that's coming up in there, I don't know why I'm doing the moose. Some of that other talk that's in there doesn't come up. Or maybe there's a little bit of sort of background radiation for it, and then it can kind of dissipate because you're focusing through it. So again, coping skill, real coping skill. Not just, oh, I like coloring. This is an actual coping skill. It helps keep the stress and energy down. So when you can feel it coming up into your chest or your heart or your brain racing or anything, you can bring this down. Helps keep it healthier, helps kind of get you to remember to reset and recenter. No, I think I got bit. I'm not sure where or from what. Anyway, it could just be hives. Contact dermatitis. My very sensitive skin. So myriad sort of things. So there will be some conditioning time to go over with. So again, if this isn't just popping for you immediately, that's fine. That is a natural and perfectly acceptable state of progression as things go. But just consistent practice over time. All kung fu or gong fu means is special skill developed over time. And you can be very talented with something, but the skill still has to be developed. So there might be some people that kind of get this maybe, but you still need to practice it. There still needs to be a mindful state of doing this breathing consistently over time for it to really sink in and for it to really sync, SYNC, synchronize with your motions, with your thoughts, with your behavior, with how we're going to do this, with the Qigong and the Taiji, the Xingyi, the Bagua, the Kung Fu, the Aikido, the Swaija, whatever. It's going to take a little bit of time. So as we're working on this, as we're talking about this, keep practicing. And just, yeah, if you can steal little moments here or there, yeah, waiting in line, maybe you're washing your hands, you can, count out some breathing, however you time it out. Maybe you can time out you washing your hands to the breathing. And that's a way to make sure you're washing your hands at enough time too, which I would be saying pandemic or not, because wash your damn hands. Another thing you can do for this is count your steps. So this is a way to actually have, again, moving, meditative, mindful practice. Be careful, because I will say that the idea of situational awareness is pretty much trained out of us as a people anymore. Someone close to me last year was killed by an accident because of a lack of situational awareness. It's, from what I understand, really what it amounts to, and it's like this is what I had like warned people that were in my classes and stuff about before, and it was like this real life situation that happens. It's horrible, but it's true, especially now that we've got devices that are more powerful than space shuttles of the past in our pockets, and everyone's got stuff that and even the wireless thing. So you even forget that this thing's going on anymore because there's not even wires to some of these things. For some people, some of us can't really use earbuds that well because their damn ears are too big and they keep falling out. Even the clips aren't big enough for my big ears, so they're kind of sitting out anyway. And this part in here, this don't fit. So there's not ones that are really big enough that I've found that fit into the out all the time. So you want to still maintain situational awareness while you do this. You don't want to look down all the time and be, just saying stuff to where you're not paying attention to people around you or things around you or cars or aliens or any of this other stuff. But you can think of as like, I'm going to breathe in, 1, 2, 3, breathe out, 1, 2, 3, high. Something I don't really have the space to do that with the cord. On this, but yeah, just breathe 1, 2, 3, breathe out 1, 2, 3. You can count your steps and your breathing and put those together, and that is another way too that's going to help your Tai Chi, because what it does, it starts neurologically getting the body and the breathing used to being synchronized together, and everything with internals, the breath and the movement need to be put together. There needs to be a synchronization of the breath and the movement. This is a way to start helping get you neurologically wired for that. And if you're walking too, your whole body is, because you're down to your toes and even the top of your head, keeping yourself straight. We're going to talk about the posture. So these are some ways to kind of help work on making the breathing a regular practice and a regular thing that can be sort of now programmed into your everyday life and help uh, with everything. Thinking, functioning, dealing with people, dealing with stressful situations on top of your workouts, maybe your yoga, your qigong, your taiji, xingyi, bagua, all this other stuff like that. Playing basketball even. All right, so that's breathing. This is the postnatal breathing. You might also see things if it's called Tai Chi breathing or Taoist breathing or something else like that. You might see it in those realms as well. Okay, so 2 inches below the navel, inch in the body, the lower dantian, or you might just hear it just dantian, coincides with the second or sacral chakra. We breathe in, isolating just this. We breathe in, pull into the spine, exhale, push forward. Breathe in and pull back, breathe out and push forward. Isolating the lower abdomen, pulling in the spine, lower abdomen moving, parallel to the ground. Cool. All right, so we'll continue on with the deconstructing yang style uh, method and everything else like that. So I hope this helps. Hope this is good. If I need to, I'll do other clarification things later on. Maybe there will be some things that we add on, like a sitting meditation aspect to this as well. So we'll do the prenatal breathing with that. So we're kind of covering up and down and all the different bases of things. But for right now, this is Steve John signing off. Breathe well.